of speech. Speech is all about speaking. It's all about pronouncing your words correctly. One thing you should know is that words is made up of different sounds combined. And when you combine these sounds together, you get a word. And when you combine words together, you make a correct sentence. That is when you combine the right words together, you make a correct sentence. So speech is all about speaking. It's different from reading or writing. And speech is not just all about speaking. It's all about speaking right. All about pronouncing your words correctly. Now, let me write down the meaning of speech for better understanding of what I am talking about. Speech is the oral expression of language through the correct production of sounds, words, using the organs of speech. Now, let's read the meaning of speech together. Speech is the oral expression of language through the correct production of sounds, words. We also have sentences using the organs of speech. Speech deals with the oral expression. Now, why did I say speech is the oral expression? There are other kind of expression. We have the facial expression. We have gestures, bodily gestures, and the likes. Now, speech is oral expression in the sense that you get to speak it. You get to use your mouth and your voice to express yourself. For facial expression, take for instance, you're sad and you do not want to tell someone, but it's showing on your face. Probably you're already crying. That is a facial expression. That speaks that you're sad. If you're happy, what is your facial expression? You smile, you laugh. That is the facial expression of what? Happiness. But for speech, speech is not a facial expression. It is the oral expression of language. Now, you can see that this definition, I did not specify it to English language alone because we have other kind of language. So, speech is the oral expression, meaning you have to use your mouth and your voice to express yourself. It's the expression of our thoughts, our ideas, our feelings, and emotion through speaking. Also, speech is the correct production of sounds. In speech, you get to learn how to produce sounds correctly. We have our vowels, we have our consonants. How can we produce these sounds correctly to make up a correct word? In speech, we get to learn it. Also, using the organs of speech. In fact, this is the most important part of speech. This is the most important part of learning speech. You have to use the organs. There is this human body part that the work it does is to produce sounds. There's a human body part that the work it does is to produce sounds, words, and it is located in our face. So speech is the oral expression of language through the correct production of sounds, word, using the organs of speech. So speech is pronouncing your words correctly, majorly pronouncing your words correctly and speaking right. Now let's move on to the importance of speech. That is, why is it very vital for us to speak a language correctly, majorly English language. Number one, it helps us communicate clearly. One, it helps us communicate clearly. So one of the importance of speech is that it helps you pass an information in a way that the listener will understand what you are saying. So when you get better in speech, you get better in communication, effective communication. There are times when probably when you were very small, let's say 3 to 5 years or 5 to 6 years, you could not really convey your feelings or your emotion or the idea you had at that point because you were struggling with your words and making up correct sentence. You must have seen a baby trying to tell you something and the baby is saying just one word, water, water, and he or she needs water. Instead of him to say I need water, he's just saying water, water, because the baby has not yet gained mastery in speech. But as the baby begins to grow and begins to speak more, you get to notice that he now speak well and communicate clearly because he or she is very good in making a speech. So one of the importance of learning how to speak right is that you can be able to communicate clearly to your friends or your classmates or your parents or whoever that is. Now, the second importance of speech is it improves our reading skills, or it improves our reading and pronunciation skill. One thing you should know is this: if you want to be very good in reading, you have to speak loud. So when you're speaking, when you are using a word, probably you just learn a new word and you would want to use it to communicate, say it aloud. Make sure you hear yourself speak. So if you can hear yourself speak a word or make a sentence or convey an information, you get to notice your errors and you go back and learn the right way to pronounce those words. Now, the words used in stories is the same words we use in communicating. Don't feel that, oh, the words used in storybook or any passage or whatever it is or any write-up is totally different from the one we use in communicating and speaking. No, it is the same words. So the more you speak, the more you use your word, the more you pronounce words correctly, the more it's easier for you to read. So, if you are called, probably you're called upon in the class to read a passage. You get to stand in front of the class, you take the book and start reading. So, as you read, you are able to hear yourself. And when you notice that there are some words that you cannot pronounce, what do? You write it down and learn the repronunciation of these words. And these words, the only way you can learn the correct pronunciation, it is through transcription, which we will delve into very soon. But majorly, we are in the importance of speech. So, speech improves our reading and pronunciation skill. So, if you're having issues with pronouncing a word, I want you to go to the dictionary, get the correct pronunciation of that word, and keep using it and make sure you can hear yourself speak that word. Now, the next importance of speech is that it helps us it help us speak fluently. To speak fluently is to speak without pause, hesitation, or repetition. Not you repeating your words over and over again, or you're saying no. When you are good in speaking right, that is when you keep on speaking, because it is very right for you to keep speaking. If you are struggling with speaking, or you're struggling with communicating or conveying your feelings to somebody else, or trying to tell somebody this is how you feel or this is what you think the person should do, if you're having issues with that, keep speaking. And then in the process of you repeating or speaking over and over and over again, you get to notice that you are now more fluent. You're like, you are now better than before. Now you speak fluently. So the importance of speech is it helps us speak fluently without pause, hesitation, or repetition. Lastly, the last importance of speech is that it enable our listeners. It enable our listeners to understand ideas or our feelings. So when you get to know how to speak right, your listeners will be able to understand your idea or how you're feeling at that point. So these are the importance of speech. Now let's go over it again. We talked about the meaning of speech. Speech is the oral expression of language through the correct production of sounds, words using the organs of speech. Then we'll move on to the importance of speech. It helps us communicate clearly. It improves our reading and pronunciation skills. It helps us speak fluently. And lastly, it enables our listeners to understand our ideas or our feelings. So this is the meaning and importance of speech. We are moving on to the features of speech. This, you get to know the three important parts of speech. Features of speech. We will learn the three important parts of speech. Now, the first part of speech, or the first features of speech, is articulation. Articulation. In articulation, we learn how we can use our lip, our tongue, and our teeth to produce sounds for communication. Now, you should know that we have parts in our body that does different function. There's also the part that produces the sounds we make to communicate. So in articulation, we learn how to use these parts to produce correct sounds for communication. And these parts are called articulators. So we have, let me give you three articulators. We have the lip, we have the tongue, we have the teeth, and other parts that is used to produce sound. So these parts all have to come together to produce correct sounds for communication. The next feature of the speech is voice. Now, I can make correct sounds because of my voice. In our body, we have the respiratory system where air passes through. Now, when the air passes through the lungs down to the trachea, this is the trachea. The trachea is also known as the windpipe. The wind, I'm going to write that down. The windpipe. Trachea. Good. The trachea is also known as the windpipe. That is where the air passes through from the lungs straight to the mouth. Now, when the air moves in the trachea, it gets to a part in the trachea called the larynx. The larynx is known as the voice box. The voice box. In the larynx, we have the vocal cord, or called the vocal folds. Now, when the air gets to the vocal cord, there is a vibration. There is a vibration, it shakes. And then, when the vibration occurs, sound is produced. Now, let's practice it. I want you to produce the sound ah. Good, very good. Now I want you to place your two fingers on the trachea here, right here, below the lower jaw. Now produce the sound ah. Very good. What did you notice? The vibration, right? Good. Now, there's a vibration because the air has gotten to the vocal cord. So it is through this we are able to produce sounds. Now, the next features of speech is fluency. Fluency. So fluency is the smooth flow of speech without unnecessary pauses, hesitation, or repetition. So as we progress in speech, we get to be more fluent. As we speak and speak in a way that you can hear yourself, we get to be more fluent. Now say the word or say the sentence, I love reading books. I want you to say it again. I love reading books a lot. Very good. You can see that you are very fluent in just that sentence. So that is all about fluency. So these are the features of speech. We have articulation, we have voice, and we have fluency. Now, let's dive into the organs of speech. I want you to sit up, take a book and a pen, and just take something that you can use to probably look at your face to learn the organs of speech. Organs of speech is the part of the human body that produces speech sounds. Now, the human body has different parts, and each part has their own function. Take for instance, if you are told to pick something from the ground, or you are told to lift up an object, what body part do you use? Your hands. Very good. You use your hands to lift up the object. So that is the function of the hand, to pick, to lift objects. And the function of the hand is different from the function of what? The leg. You use your legs to run, walk, do other exercise. Now, for the organs of speech, it deals with the part of the human body that is meant to produce speech sounds. Now, let me write the meaning of the organs of speech. Organs of speech is the part of the human body that work together to produce speech sounds. Now, I want you to touch your lip. Very good. I want you to touch your teeth. Very good. I want you to touch your tongue. Very good. Now, these that you have touched are the parts or part of the human body that produces speech sound. So today we will learn more parts of the human body that work together to produce speech sound. Take note, these parts have to work together. These organs, they all have to work together to produce speech sounds. So let's take the definition again. Organs of speech is the part of the human body that work together to produce speech sounds. Then move on to the organs and their function. The first organ of speech that we'll be learning is the lip. So we'll be learning the lip as the first organ of speech and the function of the lip. The lip is these two soft edges outside the mouth. I'll repeat again. The lip, write that down. It is the two soft edges outside the mouth. So now take a look at me. I'm going to point to the lip. So this is the two soft edges outside the mouth. The lip is divided into two. We have the upper lip and the lower lip. I'll repeat again. We have the upper lip and the lower lip. Now, when these two, that is the upper lip and the lower lip, come together, they produce sounds like p, p, as in pan. And it also produces sounds like b, 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 as in boy. Now, these sounds produced is as a result of the joint effort of the the upper lip and the lower lip. These sounds are called bilabial sounds. So when the upper lip and the lower lip come together, they produce bilabial sounds. P as in pan, b as in what? Boy. We also have other sounds like hmm. We have for man. For man. So you can see that when producing the sound, your lip is pressed together. Let's do it again. And the air is rushing out from your where? Your nostril. So it is called a nasal sound. In a scenario where the air is not coming out from your mouth, but it's actually coming out from your nostril, that sound is a nasal sound. But if it is rushing out from your mouth, it is oral sound, like p and b. These are oral sounds. So these are bilabial oral sound. But for this is a nasal sound. Now, the next organ of speech is the teeth. The teeth. The teeth is located inside the mouth. So the teeth is the hard white object, located inside the mouth. So the teeth is the hard white object that is located inside the mouth after the lips. So after the lip comes the teeth. So the teeth is found after the lip, located inside the mouth. Now the teeth is divided into two, same with the lip. You know, for the lip we have the upper lip and the lower lip, but for the teeth we have the upper set and the lower sets for the teeth. Now the teeth produce sounds like th, th, for thin, thin, thin. Also produce sounds like the. Please take note. The, for this, this. Now, these two sounds are called the dental sound because we use our teeth to produce sounds like this. So we have thin, thin, and then we have the, this. So these two sounds are called the dental sounds. We also have other sounds that the teeth produce. So we have sound like so I'm going to write that. We have the sound and we have the v sound. Now, these two sounds are produced through the conjunction of the upper teeth and the lower lip. So the upper teeth and the lower lip need to come together to produce sound like f and v. For fan, v for van. So now let's practice it. Take a good look at me or a close look at me. So I want to pronounce this sound, or you can also produce it too. You can also pronounce it. So now let's pronounce it together. Now what do you notice? You notice that the upper lip is on where? The upper teeth is on the lower lip. Now sounds like this, where the upper teeth stays on the lower lip or work together with the lower lip, is called a labiodental sound. I said this th and the are dental, so majorly teeth. Now for this, they are called labiodental. Labiodental means the lip and the teeth working together to produce a sound. So these are labiodental sounds. So when you produce a sound, take note of the organs. Take note of how a particular organ comes together with another organ to produce a sound. And then you'll be able to get the name of that sound. Now, let's move on to the next sound. The next organ of speech is the tongue. The tongue. The tongue is the soft part of the mouth. It is actually located inside the mouth. The tongue is the most flexible organ of speech. Why is it flexible? Because it has the ability to move around in the mouth when we make speech sound. And also, take note, the tongue is the most important articulator in English. In fact, it is the most important organ of speech. Without the tongue, you cannot speak. You can't speak correctly, you can't make a sentence or even communicate. If you are to hold your tongue and start talking, your words will not be intelligible at all. So you won't be able to speak right when your tongue is not working. So that is why the tongue is the most important articulator. So I'm going to write that down. The tongue, this is the soft part of the mouth. It is the most important articulator. Now, the tongue has four parts. So for the tongue, we have the tip of the tongue. That is the tip of the tongue. Then we have the blade of the tongue. The blade of the tongue is located at the side of the tongue. Then we have the front of the tongue. We also have the back of the tongue. So this part is needed to produce sound. Now, the tongue is able to produce sounds like t, d, l, and s. Now, when you produce sound like this, you get to notice that the front part of the tongue is raised up. I told you that the tongue is flexible, it can move around. Very good. Now, when the front part of the tongue is raised up, you are able to produce sound like ts for top, D for dog, L for lamb, S for snake. Good. So you are able to produce sound like this when the front part of the tongue is raised up. For the back part of the tongue, you are able to produce sounds like K. For kettle, G. For goat, and then we have for sing. Good. Now, for these three sounds, it is produced through the help of the back part of the tongue. So the back part of the tongue needs to be raised up for you to produce sounds like this. So let's produce the sound. Good. You get to notice that the back part of the tongue is what? Raised up, while the front part is lowered. Then we have the G. Then we have the for sing. So let's produce the sounds together. Ts, d, l, s, k, g. Very good. Now, the next organ of speech is the alveolar ridge. The alveolar ridge. This is the part where the teeth touches the gum. So I'm going to write that down. This is the part where the teeth touches the gum. So the alveolar ridge is located also inside the mouth, but it is the part where the teeth touches the gum. Now, how do you get to know the alveolar ridge? I want you to pronounce this sound. For nail. Now, take note of the movement of your tongue. You can notice that the tongue is raised up to it. The tongue is raised up, and the tongue is located right now when you pronounce the sound at the back of your upper set of teeth, where the gum begins. That place is called the alveolar ridge. That part is called the alveolar ridge. That is why the alveolar ridge is the part where the teeth touches the gum. So through the help of the alveolar ridge and the tongue, we get to pronounce this same sound as mentioned here. We get to pronounce the t, the d, the s, the z, sound for zip. We get to pronounce the l sound and the lax. So these are the sounds produced through the help of the alveolar ridge. The next organ of speech is the hard palate. The hard palate. Now, I want you to liken the mouth to a house. Think of it as a house. And this house has a roof. And just imagine the house is divided into two. So we are going to have the first half and the second half of the house. Same thing with the mouth. The mouth has its own roof. Very surprising, right? Yes. It has its own roof, which is located at the top part of the mouth. And then the hard palate is the first half of that roof. The half palate is close to the alveolar ridge. So I'm going to write that down. This is the first half of the roof of the mouth. Now, The hard palate is close to the alveolar ridge. Where is the alveolar ridge? The alveolar ridge is the part where the teeth touches the gum. So after the alveolar ridge, we have the hard palate, which is the first half of that roof. Now, the alveolar ridge help us to produce sounds like y, y, like yes, yes, yes. So this sound is called a palatal sound. This sound is called a palatal sound. You can be able to produce sound like this when the front of your tongue, that's the front part of your tongue, goes straight up to the hard palate. That is the only way you can be able to produce this kind of sound correctly. We also have other sounds like sh for sheep. We also have sounds like sh for sheep. Then we have sounds like j for pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. Good. So these are palatoalveolar. This is when the blade or the tip of your tongue goes straight up to the hard palate. That is the only way you can be able to pronounce sound like ch for sheep, sh for sheep, and then j for pleasure. So this is sheep, this is sheep, and this is j for pleasure. So this is the fifth organ of speech. Now the next organ of speech is the soft palate. The soft palate. The soft palate is also known as the velum. This controls the air that passes through the mouth or the nose. So this soft palate is located inside. It is the interior part of the roof of the mouth. It is located inside the mouth. So I'm going to write that down. It is the interior part of the mouth. Through the help of the soft palate, we are able to produce sounds like, we are able to produce sounds like k, g, and ng, ng. K for cattle, g for goat, and then ng for sing. So these are called velar sounds. These are called velar sounds. Next up is the nasal cavity. The nasal cavity. The nasal cavity helps us produce nasal sound. So these help produce nasal sounds. So why is it called nasal sound? Any sound that is produced and the air rushes out from the nostril and not the mouth is a nasal sound. So we have three nasal sounds. We have the for man. We have for nail. Then we have for sing. So these are the nasal sound. The next organ is the larynx. The larynx is also known as the voice box. The voice box. So this houses the vocal cord. The larynx houses the vocal cord. So in the larynx, we have the vocal cord where the air passes through and there is a vibration. The next organ is the vocal cord. The vocal cord is also called the vocal fold. The vocal fold. It is two tissue placed side by side. So in the vocal cord, there is the vibration. That is where the vibration occurs that produces the sound we make. So when the air passes through the windpipe from the lung straight to the trachea and get to the vocal cord, there is a vibration, and that vibration produces the sounds we make. So in the vocal cord, there is the vibration. Then the last one is the lungs. The lungs. So the lung is the part or the organ of speech that pushes the air that is used to make speech sound. This air is very, very important. Without the air, we can't make speech sound. So the lung plays a very important role in making speech sound. So the lung pushes the air down straight to the windpipe, that is the trachea. So when it gets to the vocal cord, there is the vibration. So this is where vibration occurs. For the vocal cord, this is where vibration occurs that produces the sound we make. So when the air gets to the vocal cord, there is a vibration and it produces that sound. Ah, good. So these are the organs of speech. So far, we've been able to write down and learn the 10 organs of speech. The first organ was what? The lip. We have the teeth. We have the tongue. We have the alveolar ridge. We have the hard palate. We have the soft palate. We have the nasal cavity. We have the larynx, known as the voice box. We have the vocal cord, known as the vocal fold. And lastly, the lungs that pushes the air that is used to make speech sound. So these are the organs of speech. Now, let's move on to something very interesting. We would learn how to produce sounds and figure out the organs that join or work together to produce these sounds. In this exercise, we would list the organs of speech used to produce the following sounds. The first sound we have is the p, p for pan. Now, I want you to take note of the movement of the organ of speech. P, p for pan. So, the organ of speech used to produce this sound p is the lip. The lip. That is both the upper lip and the lower lip. The next sound is tss, tss. Now take note. What moved as you produce the sound tss? Good. The tongue is raised up to the alveolar ridge. So we have both the tongue, that is the tip of the tongue, and the alveolar ridge. The alveolar ridge. So the tongue and the alveolar ridge are the organs used to produce a sound like tss for time, team. Then the next sound is k, k for kettle, k for kettle. If you take note of the organs, you get to see that the back of the tongue is raised up to the soft palate. So the soft palate is the other part of the roof of the mouth, the soft part of the roof of the mouth. So the back of the tongue and the soft palate come together to produce a sound like this. So the organ used is the tongue. So let's indicate that it is the back of the tongue, sorry. And then the soft palate. So these are the two organs used to produce a sound like this. Good. Now the next sound we have here is the f sound. F for farm, fine, fine, fan, and the likes. Now take note, what organ of speech is used to produce a sound like this? Now let's pronounce it again. Now you get to notice that the upper set of your teeth is on the lower lip. So we make use of the teeth, the upper part, and the upper part, and the lip, and the lip, the lower, and the lip. So to produce a sound like we make use of these two organs, the teeth, the upper part, and the lip, the lower part. So they both come together to produce a sound like this. Now, the last sound we have here is this. Th, th, for thin, 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 for thin. Now, what organ of speech is used to produce a sound like this? The teeth. So we use the teeth. The teeth. That is why it is called a dental sound. So we use the teeth to produce a sound like this. We also need the lip. Yes, the lip. Now take note of my lip. Th, th. So you see the lip is below the upper teeth. So these are the sounds and the organs of speech used to produce the following sound. Now I want you to also figure out other sounds and also figure out the organs of speech used to produce that sound. You can as well drop it in the comment section. If you have questions, you can also drop it in the comment section. I promise to give answers to all of your questions. If you are just joining this channel, this is Oya Learn, your flawless school. So do well to subscribe, comment, like, and share. I'll see you in our next class. Thank you.